These two steel watch cases look identical. Same shape, same shine, same brushed on top, polished on the sides. One of them costs $200. The other costs $3,000. And by the end of this video, you'll be able to tell which is which, just from a photograph, without touching it, without the brand, without the price tag. Here's what almost everyone assumes the extra money buys. Better steel, some exotic, harder alloy. All the magic words hand-finished. And both of those assumptions are wrong. The premium steel is actually softer, not better, and the machine isn't the problem at all. What separates the $200 case from the $3,000 one comes down to something you can see in a photo once you know where to look. And once you've seen it, you cannot switch it off. So, this is the companion to how you learn to read a dial. There, we read the light. Here, we read the metal. To do it, we need to crack 3 questions. 1. If both cases use the same techniques, where does the quality difference actually live? 2. So I'm paying for exotic steel, right? 904L, oyster steel, all that. Hold that thought, because it's the biggest lie in watchmaking. And 3. Am I paying for a human hand, or does the machine do it just as well? Stick around, because the answer to all 3 lands on one surprising place, and it's not where the marketing points. The principle, finishing, is geometry. Let's build this from zero. Every watch case starts as a block of metal machined into a rough shape. Then each surface gets a treatment. Brushed, a matte, directional texture. Polished, a mirror shine. Or one of their variants. That's the whole toolkit, and it's not a long list. So, here's the idea that holds this whole video together. The quality of a case isn't in which technique it uses. It's in how cleanly the techniques are combined. When a brushed top meets a polished bevel, that line between them is either a sharp, defined blade, or it's a blur. And it's the crispness of that boundary that gives the whole watch its visual structure. A $200 case and a $3,000 case might use the exact same techniques. The quality lives entirely in how clean that boundary is. And here's something people forget. None of this began as decoration. A bevel that angled cut along an edge started out purely functional. It removes the sharp raw edge so it doesn't cut you or chip. It guides parts together during assembly. And crucially, it controls how light runs along the case, giving the shape, structure, and definition. A top designer shapes the geometry of a bevel precisely to control how the watch behaves under different light. A case with soft, uneven, wandering edges just feels vague, even if the spec sheet is strong. Think of a sharp crease ironed into a pair of trousers. A proper crease is a single clean line that cuts the light. A bad one is a fuzzy zone. A polished bevel is that crease. The quality is in the sharpness of the line, not the fabric. This obsession comes straight from high-end watchmaking, where craftsmen beveled and polished edges by hand at a precise angle as a point of pride, a signal that the object was made to last and to be admired. And here's a detail to file away for later. The machine that produces one of the most coveted mirror polishes in the world, the one Grand Seiko calls Zaratsu, was invented in Switzerland back in the 1920s. By machine and supreme quality were never opposites. So the technique is only half the story. The other half, the half that separates $200 from $3,000, lives in a single line. Let me show you how to see it. Brushing, cheap texture that hides scratches. Start at the bottom of the ladder, where most tool watches live. The most common finish in all of watchmaking is brushing, sometimes called satin. You drag an abrasive across the metal, leaving fine, parallel matte lines. It's cheap, it's fast, and it hides the scratches of daily wear beautifully, which is exactly why rugged tool watches are covered in it. And here's your first tell. On a good brush surface, the lines are straight, parallel and even, with no waves and no patches where the pattern breaks or wanders. Run your eye along them in a photo. Consistent grain, clean direction, that's control. Wobbly, patchy grain is a rushed job. Brushing is safe, but it's a bit dead. The light just scatters. So, the next rung up asks, How do you add shine, depth, and structure to the shape? And that's where quality really starts to separate. Polishing, bevels, and the 3 tests. The next rung is polishing, buffing a surface to a mirror, and beveling the edges to catch light and draw the silhouette. The apex is called black polish, or zaratsu, a surface so flat and distortion-free that it looks black from certain angles, because it reflects light in only one direction. And this is where I hand you the tools. 3 test collectors use, and every one of them works on a photograph, the line test. Find a straight line, reflected in the polished surface, a window frame, a strip light, the edge of something behind it. On a top-tier polish, that reflected line runs perfectly straight across the surface. On a cheap polish, the line ripples and wobbles as it crosses. A great mirror has no waviness. A poor one is like a slightly warped bathroom mirror. The edge test. Go to where the mirror meets the matte, where a polished bevel meets a brushed top. Is that boundary a razor, or does it smudge? A crisp, knife-sharp line is elite finishing anywhere in the world, whether it comes out of Geneva, Glashütte, or a workshop in Japan. A soft, melted border is a budget case. The roll test. Rotate the watch or scan across a few photos of it. Do the bright reflections flip cleanly from on to off, or do they smear gradually? Clean flips mean a truly flat surface. Gradual smear means the plane isn't true. Now, here's the trap almost everyone falls into. Hand-finished must mean better. It doesn't. Remember that Zaratsu polish. It's done by machine. But the quality depends entirely on the human operating it, and it takes years to train one. Meanwhile, a well-executed CNC bevel will beat a badly done hand bevel every time. The technique isn't the mark of quality. The execution is. So don't pay for the word handmade. Pay for the straight line and the razor edge whoever or whatever made them. A good Zaratsu takes many hours per case, even by machine. And it starts showing up on Seikos from around $500 on the presage sharp-edged and mid-tier prospects. At that price, a properly flat, distortion-free mirror is a genuine standout. So now you can see the execution. But what about the material? If quality is really about execution, what is that premium steel everyone brags about actually doing? And this is where watchmaking tells you its single biggest lie: the steel myth. Brands love to sell you premium steel as if it's what justifies the price. So let's test it. The industry standard is a steel called 316L, sometimes called surgical or marine grade steel. It's genuinely corrosion resistant, and for normal wear it is more than enough. Patek Philippe and Vacheron Constantin, 2 of the most respected names on earth, use it. Then there's 904L, the steel Rolex calls oyster steel. It has more chromium, nickel, and molybdenum, plus some copper. And here come the myths, one by one. Myth 1, it's harder. Wrong. It's actually softer than 316L because of the higher nickel. Myth 2, oyster steel is some special Rolex material. Wrong. It's a marketing name Rolex gave to standard 904L in 2018. Chemically, it's the same industrial steel any steelworks can produce. Its one genuine advantage is corrosion resistance in saltwater, which is the honest reason Rolex switched to it in 1985. After divers as submariners kept coming back from service with pitting in the case threads. That's a real, sensible engineering reason. It is not a harder magic exclusive metal. But you can feel the quality, a dealer will tell you. No, you can't. The weight difference between the 2 steels is about 3 grams, which is below the threshold of what a human hand can detect. Anyone who says you'll feel the 904L difference is selling you a sensation that doesn't exist. Under light, you might catch a very slightly brighter, whiter sheen, because 904L does take a marginally higher polish. That's it. That's the whole advantage on your wrist. And one last thing that quietly demolishes the whole legend: Rolex wasn't even first. Omega reportedly used 904L years earlier in the Ploprof. The renaming to oyster steel in 2018 did more for how people perceive that steel than 3 decades of actual metallurgy ever did. So if it's not the magic steel, and it's not simply the human hand, where does the extra money actually go? The honest answer is the most useful thing in this whole video, where the money really goes. First, this is instantly useful, and it's closer to you than you think. The next time you see a product photo of a watch, on a retailer's site, in an advert, on a wrist, on Instagram, you're going to run the line test on the polished edge. You're going to look for the razor-sharp boundary where the brushing meets the polish. And you're going to recognize the premium steel pitch for what it is the moment you read it on a spec sheet. You'll buy better and you'll stop paying for marketing. And the deeper principle, that quality lives in the transition, is everywhere once you see it. The joint in a piece of furniture, the crease in a pair of trousers, the weld on a bike frame. So, let's answer it straight. Where do the extra thousands actually go? Not into exotic steel. That's chemically almost the same, and softer to boot. Not into the machine. The machine does wonders. It goes into hours, and into control. The trained operator who makes sure every polished line runs dead straight and every boundary is a blade. The inspection under changing light that rejects a case with the faintest ripple. You are paying for time and for the discipline to reject anything less than perfect. Not for magic metal, but here's the honest part, and it cuts both ways. Price correlates with finishing quality, but it does not guarantee it. There are affordable watches with superb brushing and tight, clean assembly. And there are expensive watches coasting on a big name with surprisingly ordinary finishing. What matters is the execution, and you can now see the execution yourself, which means for the first time you can catch an expensive watch that isn't earning its price, and spot a cheap one that's punching miles above it. So, back to our 2 cases. The $200 one. Now you can see it. Look at the polished edge. The reflected line ripples. Look where the brushing meets the polish. The boundary smudges. Rotate it, and the highlights smear instead of snapping. It's fine, it's honest, but it's soft. The $3,000 one. The reflected line runs dead straight. The boundary between matte and mirror is a razor. The highlights flip cleanly on and off. That's not exotic steel. It's the same steel, near enough. That's ours. That's control. That's what you paid for. Same shape, same shine, same steel, more or less. A 15-fold gap in price. And every bit of it is sitting in the lines, waiting for an eye that knows how to look. Which, as of right now, is yours. And notice we only talked about the case. We haven't touched the one part that rubs against your skin all day and articulates thousands of times, the bracelet. And there's a quality test just for that. But that's a video for another day. So here's my challenge for the comments. Go and find a product photo of your own watch, or one you're thinking of buying, and run the line test on the polished edge. Straight or wobbly, razor or smudge. Tell me what you found, and tell me if the price matched the finishing. And if this changed how you look at metal, the subscribe button costs nothing and genuinely helps the channel. There's a card on screen for how you learn to read a dial, the sister film to this one, where the same trained eye reads light instead of steel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.